CBS.
When a woman is beaten by her husband, you'd think there would be an easy, obvious solution to the problem, to just leave home. Tonight on the 10 p.m. report, though, we'll learn why that step is so difficult to take after we hear from women who have been beaten by their husbands.
Casino Swiss cheese. Here is a distinctively mild taste. And here is where it all begins. Milk. Smooth, fresh, creamy milk. From this gentle beginning come the smooth textures and mild tastes of these casino varieties. Swiss, Münster, Monterey Jack, mozzarella. The results are pure natural cheeses with no preservatives. The beginning is fresh, creamy milk. Ask for casino cheeses from Kraft. They're mildly incredible.
On the next Hour magazine, Mariette Hartley and friends shed new light on the hyperkinetic child. Pat Mitchell visits the Omaha stockyards and discovers why meat prices are so sky high. Dr. Rosenfeld spells out the facts on heart disease, and an expert tells how to wisely choose the right pet. We make every hour count for you.
WCCO Television, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
From WCCO Television, the Northwest's leading news station, this is the 10 p.m. report.
Good evening. Tonight, 4 sophisticated American radar jets are on their way to Saudi Arabia in case the Iran-Iraq border war spreads to other Persian Gulf nations. In North Minneapolis tonight, the public commented on NSP's proposed rate increase, and at the Met tonight, the second day of action in the Women's Indoor U.S. Open Championship. And a bit later tonight, we'll present part 2 of our special series, Cries and Whispers. Tonight, we'll hear from women who've been beaten by their husbands and why it is so difficult for the women to find help.
An explosion and fire at the Heartland, Minnesota grain elevator injured one man and kept dozens of volunteer firefighters busy throughout the afternoon. The nephew of the elevator owner, 24-year-old Larry Stadheim, is being treated for burns in an Albert Lee hospital. WCCO's Karen Boros was in Heartland. She has the story.
Liquid propane tanks were being filled at 12:30 noon when the elevator owner smelled gas. The man filling the tanks shut off the flow and was looking for a leak. When the leak found a spark, the explosion rocking all of Heartland.
One man was blown out the back of the elevator, and the bookkeeper and myself were in the office, and we were blowing around a little bit. Then we ran out, and there was fire bursting all over.
There were 2 explosions, first the gas, next the elevator. Within seconds, there were flames. Within minutes, the first firefighters were on the scene. In all, volunteers and equipment from 9 communities zeroed in on Heartland. The Heartland Water Tower, which holds 50,000 gallons, was emptied in the first half hour. An estimated 150,000 gallons were trucked in from across the county. 30,000 bushels of soybeans were stored in the elevator at the time of the explosion. The beans and the elevator are now a total loss, estimated to be at least $500,000. The loss apparently covered by insurance.
3 weeks ago, almost to the day, firefighters from across Freeborn County got together for a drill in grain elevator explosions to find out which departments had what equipment and how to deal with large numbers of firefighters and spectators. That one day of training paid off big today when what they hoped would never happen, happened. With photographer Dick Nordling, Karen Boros, WCCO Television News, Heartland, Minnesota.
And there's a second grain elevator fire to report tonight, this one in Hendricks, Minnesota. That's in the southwestern corner of the state. Firefighters are still battling that blaze, which broke out shortly before 8 o'clock tonight. Explosions caused by rocket fire have pockmarked portions of Iraq and Iran. Although some major damage has been created inside Iraq, most of the damage has been inflicted upon civilian targets. It seems that although the Iranian Air Force is using American-made Phantom jets, the pilots are not expert marksmen. In fact, in one portion of Iraq today, the jets tried to knock out a bridge, but instead they took out a fishing boat.
The Iraq forces are making their push on the ground. Tonight they've advanced 65 miles inside the border. Iranian officials broadcast warnings to civilians tonight to make Molotov cocktails, to dig trenches in the street, and to prepare for hand-to-hand combat. As expected, the United States is sending 4 highly sensitive radar planes to Saudi Arabia to help bolster that country's air defense capabilities. That move comes amid increasing concern that the war will spill over into other Persian Gulf countries. This move move is a calculated risk for the Pentagon. Although the United States maintains a neutrality in the conflict, Saudi Arabia does support the Iraqi position in the border war. To beef up American naval strength in the area, the Pentagon also announced today that it is canceling the port of call for the carrier Eisenhower, which will remain on patrol now in the Persian Gulf area. And the carrier Midway will move to the same waters, bringing the number of American warships to 31 in the Persian Gulf Indian Ocean area. The Soviets, by the way, have an equal number there.
Meanwhile, with in Iran, with artillery fire in the background, the parliament resumed its debate on what to do with the U.S. hostages now in their 332nd day of captivity. There was agreement to appoint a 7-man commission to study the matter, but the parliament could not agree on who the men should be, so the debate was recessed until Sunday. We apparently will not be seeing a one-on-one debate between President Carter and Ronald Reagan this next month. The League of Women Voters today formally abandoned his plans after Ronald Reagan insisted on a debate including John Anderson. And Ronald Reagan took his campaign to the state of Iowa today, where he criticized the Carter administration's grain embargo against Russia.
This administration has hamstrung agricultural productivity with a multitude of government regulations which have added immeasurably to cost of producing food and fiber. It has damaged the credibility of American farmers as reliable suppliers of wheat, of corn, of soybeans, of all farm products by embargoing agricultural products or exports to the Soviet Union. The result has been costly to American farmers and ineffective in our foreign policy.
And Reagan applauded the U.S. Senate for last week's vote against the grain embargo.
Once again, John Anderson has found himself in the lion's den. Today, Anderson traveled to North Carolina, a state where tobacco is the major industry. But there he suggested an end to federal price supports for tobacco products. Well, the idea was not well received in the state. Anderson, though, was greeted enthusiastically by college students there. In the meantime, President Carter was busy today suggesting a plan to aid the ailing American steel industry.
A healthy and modern steel industry is vital to our nation's economy and also to our nation's security. We must meet foreign competition. We must reverse our declining productivity, still, by the way, the highest in the world. We must protect our environment, and we must create jobs for a constantly growing workforce.
Under Mr. Carter's plan, steel companies would be able to write off more of their equipment costs. It would also give companies 3 more years to meet federal pollution standards. Administration officials say they hope that will encourage steel companies to put more money into production. The plan would also reinstate the trigger price mechanism, which is expected to reduce steel imports and to raise the price of domestic steel.
Well, concern about the price of electricity brought about 150 residents of North Minneapolis to a public hearing tonight. Organizers say they want to focus attention on the poor and the elderly and their difficulty in paying their utility bills. They also want to call attention to Northern State Power Company and its $77.5 million rate increase.
Playing a game today that we cannot afford. See, if we could afford the game that they're playing today, we wouldn't have to be living in a project.
Specifically, organizers of tonight's meeting say they're against NSP's plan to end the conservation rate credit and the hefty dividend increase proposed for the shareholders. And in Ramsey County, officials are running short of money to help the needy pay their energy bills. And Ann Rubenstein has more on that story.
So you'll have to go to the welfare then, because we don't have any funding here. And it's our last day, so.
When people called the RAP office looking for energy assistance this morning, that's what they heard. The program is without federal funds right now. The money that was supposed to be here by October might not come until January because it's tied up in Congress. During the past year, this office that packed up today has assisted more than 10,000 Ramsey County households. It has allocated $3 million in heating assistance. Because the state programs have more rigid guidelines, there will be few options this winter for people who need help.
The majority of people won't know where to go, and there won't be a central number that people can call like they could here. And part of our job is, if we can assist them, to try to refer them to other agencies who can.
The RAP workers are trying to get some community agencies to pool resources and help people pay off current NSP bills before October 15th. October 15th is when NSP cannot shut off power because